Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Scout Report. This is the time to look ahead again. This time it's a trip to Reading on Saturday afternoon. We have Alex from Elm Park Royals with us joining today to give us a lowdown on Reading. How are you doing, Alex?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks, Matt. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Thank you very much. So let's talk about your season so far. You're sitting just outside the playoffs. It's Reading, so every season's kind of turbulent at the minute, I think. But talk me through the changes since, because obviously when we played you in whenever it was September, Ruben Sellers was still in charge and everything else. So there's been kind of major changes from the playing side of things since then, haven't there?
Yeah, so we lost Ruben Sellers to Hull in early December, and since then Noel Hunt has stepped up from being the under-21s coach to take on the management full time. We've lost Sam Smith, who was our really only first choice striker. We haven't properly replaced him. We've signed Billy Bowden on loan from Burton, but be surprised if he plays up front. And we are basically just kind of trying to backfill with a youth striker up front at the moment, or kind of on the verge youth striker / first team striker. So we are pretty weakened, I would say, compared to where we were in September. And the other major change, obviously, being that Hunt is now in charge instead of Sellers. Depending on who you listen to, it would be considered a negative, certainly, but depending on who you listen to, the style has certainly seen us pick up less points and play much less entertaining attacking football in the last 2 months. That probably can be partly down to Noel Hunt and tactics and preparation for games, but also we are going through what you would class as a regular injury run for some clubs, but unfortunately we just don't have any squad depth to be able to replace these types of players. So we lost our main kind of creativity in central midfield in Ben Elliott at the same time that Hunt took over. So he's kind of been on the back foot in terms of trying to be able to be creative through the centre. And unfortunately, our key players have kind of fallen off a bit of a cliff in terms of form as well. So yeah, he's getting a bit of criticism at the minute, Noel Hunt. But it's difficult really to see what else he can do.
Yeah. With Sellers, was it, because obviously what's going on behind the scenes at Reading, was it always a thing you think that potentially somebody's going to come in? Because the job he's done with you guys, bearing in mind the circumstance, has been fantastic. Was always that worry that somebody would come in pretty soon?
I think inevitably it was going to happen at some point. I think there was a lot of fans who had the expectation that he would at least say no to a club or be a bit more picky in what club he took. Ultimately, you know, the difference between us and Hull in terms of league stature is not that great. I know, obviously, there's a big gulf in terms of division in between us, but there's every chance that in 6 months' time, Reading could be playing Hull in the league, whether that's either in the Championship, probably not, or in League One, which is a bit more likely. So it was a little bit surprising that he took that job. I think, you know, a lot of fans probably were hoping and expecting that maybe he would stick it out, considering he had for 18 months, that he might stick it out for another couple of months and end up getting offered the West Brom job or something like that, potentially. You know, given the level of job he was doing, I think he probably would have had a bit more choice and option had he held out a little bit longer, but he went straight away. I don't think any Reading fan can be that surprised that he left eventually. But the timing of it, just before obviously we hit January, it did kind of indicate the fact that, you know, maybe he thought that, you know, player sales were coming and that things weren't all right behind the scenes, which obviously they're not. But there wasn't really a whole lot of surprise that he left, but it was more the timing and the club choice, which was surprising, I think.
Yeah. Like we just mentioned a moment ago, sit just outside the playoffs at the minute. When I normally look at a club who, in your circumstances, who is a mess off the field, you're kind of expecting a relegation fight. But where you are, looks fantastic. Is it realistic to think you can stay there, bearing in mind the issues you've had, or is it more hope than expectation you can still challenge?
I think it's probably, if I'm being honest, more hope than expectation that we're going to finish in the top 6 at this point. And certainly, I don't think any fan would expect us to finish in the top 6. But it's even more hope that we're even going to be able to remain in that kind of like battle, since Hunt took over. I think we're 13th or 14th in the league table in the last 12 or 13 games. Our problem is we just don't score enough goals now because we've obviously lost Sam Smith. We can't seem to put balls in the net, and we're not doing it at the same frequency we were in the first half of the season, ultimately from outside of Sam Smith. So until that picks up, it's difficult really to see us maintaining that kind of challenge. We are good enough across the rest of the field to not just, drop down the table entirely. I wouldn't expect us to be finishing in 18th or 19th really at this point, because we've picked up too many points and we are competitive in games. We're not getting blown out in games, but equally we're not really dominant enough against any team at the moment to be able to say we think we're going to be able to challenge though. So my guess is that we'll probably finish somewhere between 8th to 11th at this point.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Just talk about the players you have got who can hurt us. What are the players that are available and fit and are still at the club? Who can hurt us on Saturday?
So in terms of at the back, I mean, our key players are at the back mainly. Pereira's had an excellent season in goal. Saved a penalty in midweek. First penalty that we haven't had scored against us for almost 4 years. So that was pleasing. I think he's got one of the highest expected goals numbers in terms of against. I don't know how you say it, but he's got one of the best in terms of like expected goals kept out in League One at the moment. And he's been, a very solid number one for us. He has got a little bit of a mistake in him from time to time, but generally very, very solid. Mbengwe at the back has just come back from injury and is going to play centre back on Saturday. He does open up our style a little bit because he will bring the ball forwards from centre back and kind of have these marauding runs. I think most people listening know about the exploits of Lewis Wing from outside the area. His form has dipped off a little bit. We haven't seen him really take control of the game for a little while, so it wouldn't be exactly surprising if he did it on Saturday. However, it's been probably the best part of 2 months since we've seen him kind of, take over a game. And then on the left wing, I don't think he would have played against you in September. We've got Kelvin Chabachman. He has been pretty effective in terms of being able to beat a right back this season and really kind of take the ball into the area on the byline and then try and cut back across the goal. We scored a goal on Tuesday, which was like that. We've had a couple of big chances this season from that kind of move where he'll beat the right back and then cut the ball back from the byline into the 6-yard box. So those would probably be the main players. We've obviously got, other threats in terms of players going forwards like Harvey Nibbs and Chem Campbell, but their form has really kind of dipped off from earlier in the season. I don't think either of them have had an assist for over 10 games.
Okay, fair enough. And let's finish with how you think the game's going to go and then a score prediction, if you can as well.
I mean, if the game is going to be anything like the last couple of Reading games, it's going to be a horrible, ugly game. Neither team will really create a lot of chances. And I'm kind of basing this a little bit off a stereotypical Rotherham performance as well. I can't be predicting a game with a lot of goals, really. So I will predict that it will be a really ugly 1-1 draw on Saturday, I think.
That sounds eerily familiar of our season, to be honest with you. That wouldn't surprise me one bit. 0-0's more likely based on how we've played recently, but we'll see. Thank you very much, Alex. Make sure everybody checks out Elm Park Royals. We'll put the links in the show notes as always. And if you're watching, make sure to put your score prediction in the comments as well. Let us know what you think the score's going to be in the comments below, and subscribe and like if you haven't done so already as well. Thank you all for watching. We will see you all next time. And as always,